The name Jaylen Brown has never been louder in NBA conversations, and yet it feels like we are only scratching the surface of what it could mean for the Boston Celtics and for the entire league. When Bleacher Report floated a trade scenario involving Brown and the Detroit Pistons, most people rushed to dismiss it as unrealistic. But what if this proposal reveals something deeper, something that speaks less about Detroit's desire to speed up their rebuild and more about how valuable Jaylen Brown truly is in today's market? The offer involved Ron Holland, Jaden Ivey, Tobias Harris, and a first-round pick in 2027, top 4 protected, in exchange for Brown. On paper, it looks like a big haul. In reality, it raises far more questions than answers, and that is where the intrigue lies. Jaylen Brown is not just a scorer. He is not just the co-star next to Jayson Tatum. His presence is a symbol of continuity, of resilience, and of the Celtics' belief in building something lasting rather than chasing quick fixes. He signed the richest contract in NBA history at the time, a 5-year deal worth over $300 million, not just because of numbers on a stat sheet, but because Boston sees him as an anchor for the future. For Detroit, the appeal is obvious. Pairing Brown with Cade Cunningham and young wings like Ausar Thompson could instantly shift them into the conversation with Orlando and Indiana as rising forces in the East. But even in that scenario, the hidden question remains, is Brown the type of player you simply trade for, or is he the type of player you can only hope to draft and develop because very few of his kind ever become available? What makes this debate fascinating is not the mechanics of the trade, the salaries, or the roster spots. It is the reality that Boston has reached a point in its timeline where every move carries championship weight. They are not an experimental franchise, they are not chasing relevance, they are chasing banners. That is why trading Brown feels so unlikely. Imagine taking away a player who has proven on the biggest stages that he could be a primary option when defense is key in on Tatum. Imagine handing over that level of playoff experience for prospects and future picks. It is not about whether Ivey or Holland will become good players. It is about the fact that the Celtics already know what they have in Brown. Certainty has value, and in a league defined by volatility, certainty can be priceless. There is also the untold angle of leadership. Every season, Brown has taken a step, not just in skill, but in presence. He speaks with confidence, he embraces responsibility, and he represents the Celtics off the court with a maturity that cannot be measured by box scores. Detroit might covet that, but Boston has already built around it. The Celtics' decision to keep both Tatum and Brown together through years of speculation was not hesitation, it was strategy. Every time critics said the duo could not coexist, they responded with deeper playoff runs. Every time doubt surfaced, they silenced it with resilience. So here is the curiosity that lingers. What if Boston does not just keep Brown, but actually unleashes him in ways we have never seen? What if this season becomes the one where he is no longer framed as Tatum's partner, but as a force whose ceiling has yet to be defined? The contract says the Celtics believe it. The organization's refusal to entertain half measures says they believe it. And fans should hold on to that hope, because in a league where stars move constantly, Boston has chosen stability. That stability could be the very thing that separates them from every other team trying to piece together quick solutions. For Detroit, the rumor was a fun thought experiment. For Boston, it was a reminder. A reminder that Jaylen Brown is not just another trade asset. He is the type of player you build around, the type of player who could define an era. The trade machine can calculate numbers, but it cannot measure belief, and Boston's belief in Brown is the kind of belief that wins championships. Celtics are approaching training camp with a question that could define not just this season, but the next chapter of the franchise. Hidden behind the excitement of Eurobasket, where Nemias Quetta has been putting together flashes of dominance for Portugal, lies a much bigger storyline that the front office has been carefully weighing. The Celtics are not just searching for another rotational big, they are silently setting the stage for the arrival of their true center of the future. Why is this such a critical issue? Right now, the answer goes far beyond Quetta's promise, or the hustle of short-term contributors like Chris Boucher and Luka Garza. It stretches into the very construction of the roster and the economic chessboard Brad Stevens is managing. Boston does not have the flexibility of franchises that can throw money around carelessly. The reality is that every dollar over the luxury tax carries a price tag far beyond its face value, and in a league where contracts often determine who wins in June, the Celtics must balance talent with sustainability. That is exactly why Anfernee Simons has become the piece everyone is watching. Simons is not on this roster by accident. His presence is tied directly to the possibility of a trade that could deliver Boston the kind of interior anchor that championship teams rely on when the intensity of the postseason exposes every weakness. The reason Boston has not rushed to move him is not hesitation, it is calculation. Stevens knows that once Simons is dealt the return has to shift the balance of the roster in a way that complements Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown at the highest level. Fans might wonder why nothing has happened yet, but patience is part of the plan. The logic is simple yet brutal. Beyond Simons, there are almost no contracts that can move the needle financially without touching the core. Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser are bargains that the team will not part with lightly. The stars are untouchable. That leaves Simons as the one real bridge to a player who can handle the physical toll of the center position while also allowing Boston to maintain its perimeter-heavy style. Imagine a scenario where Boston secures a big man capable of protecting the rim, controlling the glass, and running the floor alongside Tatum and Brown. Suddenly, the most complete roster in the league becomes even harder to counter. But what if the trade is not direct? That is where the intrigue grows. Boston has been stockpiling trade exceptions, financial weapons that might only be activated next summer once the team maneuvers under the tax threshold. This means that a move involving Simons today might not immediately deliver the final piece, but could unlock a sequence of deals that end with the Celtics securing the anchor they need. For a front office that has consistently played the long game, that possibility is very real. Meanwhile, the internal competition cannot be ignored. Training camp will decide which of the younger wings can actually carve out real minutes. Baylor Shireman brings rebounding and passing that fit perfectly in small lineups. Josh Minot has the kind of raw athleticism that could disrupt games when opponents least expect it. Jordan Walsh still carries untapped potential, and Hugo Gonzalez may quietly emerge with enough defensive grit to force his way into the picture. Yet no matter how that battle shakes out, the truth is clear. The bigger fight is for the center position, and who will claim it both now and in the years to come. For Celtics fans, this is not a moment of doubt, but of anticipation. The organization is not scrambling, it is setting the stage. Every day that passes without a headline trade is another step in a carefully built strategy. The front office knows that Boston is not searching for just any center, they are searching for the one who can define the next era, the one who can help hang another banner. The path may not reveal itself immediately, but the signs are there for those who are paying attention. The question is not if the Celtics will find their center of the future, it is when and how that moment will arrive. The latest update on Jayson Tatum should feel less like routine news and more like a revelation that could reshape the outlook of the Boston Celtics for years to come. When Jordan Walsh, one of the youngest pieces of this roster, openly praised Tatum's progress during his recovery from Achilles rupture, it was not just about a veteran superstar pushing through rehab. It was about the signal it sends to the entire league. According to Walsh, Tatum is moving far better than he was just weeks after the injury, showing clear and visible strides that are impossible to ignore. Coming from a young player who has watched every stage of the process up close, that statement carries weight. Walsh did not speak as a fan or as an outsider, but as someone who has been in the gym and seen with his own eyes how Tatum's body and mindset are responding to the challenge. What makes this news truly electrifying is not only the idea that Tatum is recovering, but that his recovery is becoming a standard, a benchmark for every other Celtic. Walsh himself admitted that if a franchise cornerstone like Tatum, while injured, is living in the gym and pushing the limits of his body every day, then no healthy player has any excuse to hold back. This is not just about physical rehab, it is about culture, about setting a tone in the locker room that Boston has been trying to ingrain since Brad Stevens took over the front office. For fans, it is an early sign that the identity of the team is being shaped not in front of cameras, but behind closed doors, with their leader refusing to slow down. The question now is not whether Tatum will return, but when, and more importantly, in what form. Medical timelines for Achilles ruptures vary, and while some project that a return in the playoffs is technically possible, it may be wiser to look at the bigger picture. Imagine the Celtics forcing him back for a postseason run where the odds are stacked against them, only to risk re-aggravation. That is not the narrative Boston wants. Instead, what excites observers is the possibility of Tatum entering the 2026 to 2027 season not just healed, but reinvented, with a full year of mental and physical preparation, sharper than ever before. A scenario where he begins that season as fresh as he was when he first emerged as a superstar would instantly place Boston back in the title conversation, not as an underdog, but as a true heavyweight. The curiosity here lies in how Tatum chooses to use this year. Some stars in the past have returned from devastating injuries with entirely new tools, finding ways to evolve their game to reduce wear on the body while remaining lethal. Could Tatum, already one of the most skilled scorers in basketball, emerge with even sharper footwork, improved decision-making, or a deeper arsenal that allows him to dominate without as much explosive movement? The Celtics do not need him to become someone new, but if he adds layers to his game during this process, then the league will face an even more dangerous version of him. That is the hidden opportunity within this setback. And for Boston, that possibility changes everything. Walsh's words matter because they offer evidence that Tatum is not sulking or retreating from the spotlight, but rather embracing the grind of daily improvement. Fans should recognize the significance of seeing their leader turn rehabilitation into a statement. This is not a player waiting for doctors to clear him. This is a player rewriting the recovery timeline with his relentless approach. If the Achilles injury was the story of doubt, then this chapter is rapidly becoming the story of resurrection. The Celtics have built a roster deep enough to compete while waiting for their star, but everyone knows the real ceiling of the franchise depends on Tatum's health. If he returns with the same fire and efficiency that defined him over the past seasons, the next decade of Boston basketball will be defined not by an injury setback, but by the way their leader conquered it. In many ways, the road to banner number 18 might have begun not in an arena filled with fans, but in a quiet gym where Jayson Tatum refuses to let his story be written by anyone other than himself.